In section two, we'll discuss social groups. Now, social groups are another fundamental aspect of human society. We form them, we operate within them, and of course, they significantly influence our lives. And before we begin, we'll go ahead and clarify the terminology. Now, of course, as humans, we naturally organize ourselves into groups, which can be as structured as workplace or even more casual as hobby clubs. And these groups serve various purposes. And so when we understand the terminology of social groups, these are collections of people, generally two or more, and are organized for a purpose. And while cultures encompass shared values, beliefs, and behaviors within society, we understand that these groups are crucial for shaping our interactions with others, behaviors, and even our individual identities. So we'll take a look at two different types of groups. Now, first is formal groups, and these are established for a specific purpose and have a defined structure with with designated leadership roles and rules of conduct. These structures are often outlined in constitutions, bylaws, and other official documents. Membership in a formal group can provide a sense of belonging and shared identity based on the group's goals or objectives. For instance, social identity theory suggests that individuals derive self esteem from positive evaluations of their group membership. And formal groups often have established norms that influence behavior. And so, with this, social norm theory explains how these norms guide behavior within the group. And individuals may feel pressure to conform to avoid negative consequences, such as, ostracism. Examples can include things like work teams, student organizations, government agencies, or professional sports teams, such as the Kansas City Chiefs. And of course, these all have clear, structured hierarchies and roles. Then you have informal groups, and these are the ones that emerge organically based on things like shared interests, hobbies, or social connections. They lack a formal structure and hierarchy. These groups are often driven by the principles of the social exchange theory, where individuals weigh the cost and benefits of group membership. They may join for companionship, emotional support, or a sense of belonging. Informal groups can develop strong cohesion based on shared experiences and emotional bonds. And so the social penetration theory suggests that relationships and group cohesion strengthens. Examples might include things like friendships, online communities, book clubs, fan clubs, and for instance, even one that's expressed in the image from one of my favorite shows, the Hellfire Club from Stranger Things, as it was built on shared interests and social connection. I guess we could really say it was first formed on things like playing Dungeons and Dragons. And it's not just enough to share similar characteristics. There needs to be an additional factor to create a sense of cohesion. So we'll look at some of the reasons that social groups can form. Now, keep in mind, this is going to be rooted in Maslow's hierarchy of needs as it provides the framework for understanding why we form groups. And there are six fundamental needs that motivate us to connect with others. Proximity refers to people who and their physical closeness to each other and how that allows us to have more opportunities to interact. This repeated exposure fosters familiarity and can lead to the development of friendships and social bonds. Humans have the strong need for security as well. So, groups can offer a sense of safety from both real and perceived threats, whether physical harm, social isolation, or even embarrassment. Then there's social needs, as again, we are social animals. So, according to Maslow's third level of the hierarchy of needs, we have a strong desire to belong and feel connected to others. Groups provide a space to fulfill this need by fostering friendships, offering a sense of community, and creating a feeling of belonging. And of course, the boost in self esteem is also a contributor. Being part of a group that values and supports its members can contribute to a positive self image. Recognition and achievements within a group can boost self esteem. For instance, maybe receiving an invitation to join an honor society, and that can become a real source of pride for the individual. There's also sometimes the benefit of having economic self interest, and that can be a motivator for joining groups. For instance, people may join groups for things like career advancement, and groups can offer networking opportunities and thus sometimes even access to resources. And finally, groups may also form or be joined based on shared interest or goals. People with a common passion for a hobby, a sport, or activity are drawn together. Shared goals like volunteering or working on a project can be a strong motivator for group formation. So at this point, we understand why groups form, but how do they form and what factors contribute to their longevity or success? A concept known as intuitivity speaks to how groups form and the factors that contribute to their longevity or success. And this concept refers to the degree to which a collection of individuals is perceived as a coherent and distinct entity rather than just a random assortment of people. For instance, if you were asked to identify which of these two pictures presents a group, you might say both, and you're not totally wrong. However, if I ask you which one is a better depiction of a group, chances are you will state that the group of medical professionals is. And this is because they exhibit higher intuitivity, because they possess clear boundaries, shared goals, and a common identity. In contrast, the individuals in the first picture lack these defining characteristics, making it less apparent that they constitute a cohesive and distinct entity. Therefore, while both pictures technically depict groups, the medical professionals exemplify a higher degree of intuitivity, making them more salient and thus recognizable as a social group. It's also important to note that high intuitivity is not limited to formal groups alone. While formal groups, such as organizations or teams with explicit memberships and structured roles, often exhibit high levels of intuitivity due to those boundaries and shared objectives, it can also characterize informal or spontaneous groups. And informal groups may be things like groups of friends or people that hang out or gather together at social events. And these can also demonstrate high intuitivity under certain conditions. Factors such as shared interests, mutual goals, and that sense of belonging contributes to the perception of cohesion and unity within those informal groups. Culture influences the degree of group unity or intuitivity as well. And this is evident in the shared norms and values, collective identity, communication, and interaction patterns, as well as in group and out group dynamics. And so culture defines the norms, values, and beliefs that guide group behavior, while cultural norms shape collective identity and communication patterns within groups. For instance, in group out group dynamics are influenced by cultural differences, while cultural diversity within groups can present both challenges and opportunities for group unity. So, highly intuitive groups form easily due to clear boundaries, shared goals, and common identities. And this fosters a sense of belonging and cohesion among members, leading to group longevity and survival. And so, with intuitivity, it enhances group performance, does so by promoting cooperation, communication, and effective decision making. It also fosters trust and social support, leading to higher levels of satisfaction and commitment among its members. And having discussed how intuitivity contributes to the perception of groups as a cohesive entity, we'll now shift our focus to Tuckman's model of group development. And this model offers a framework for understanding the dynamic process that shapes and undergoes the process towards accomplishing group objectives. And so, by explaining these Tuckman stages, we can gain valuable insights into the challenges and opportunities that arise throughout the group's journey. Now, once a group begins to come together, they don't necessarily operate smoothly immediately. Tuckman's model speaks to efficiency and success by outlining several stages of group development. And these stages move from forming, where group members are getting acquainted through a journeying, all the way through adjourning or disbanding. And these different stages, they are constantly in contrast, they're constantly moving. And as you see, they're circular in that if one stage isn't moved through adequately, they might have to continue to go through that stage. And you can also have to round back towards a prior stage if there are essentially wrenches thrown at different stages of it. Now, if you're interested in details of the Tuckman model of group formation, then I encourage you to take a look at this series on YouTube by Lon Schiffbauer of Nutshell Brainery, as he uses the Avengers, Marvel's Avengers, to describe the different stages of the Tuckman model. It's a great series. Now, building on Tuckman's stages of group development, we'll shift our focus to the concept of group identity and how it influences the functioning of social groups. Group dynamics are some of the components and the processes regarding operations and changes that occur within social groups. And group dynamics consider how people's behavior is influenced by the purpose of the group, individual roles, and of course, structure and environment. Other factors that could include these group dynamics is communication, personality, power, and culture, of course. So, group dynamics then affect patterns of behavior such as affiliation, communication, conflict, conformity, decision making, influence, leadership, norm formation, and power. And as we mentioned before, the social identity theory sheds light on the dynamics of group behavior, particularly the us versus them mentality, thus influencing group dynamics. So, research suggests that groups have the strongest influence on our identity, and thus behavior when membership is highly important, and we have strong emotional ties to the group. For instance, when we talk about outgroups, these are the groups that we don't belong to, while in groups refer to the groups that we do affiliate with. And there are levels to the degree of affiliation. As expected, cultural differences can influence the perceptions of in group and out group members. For instance, we tend to perceive those who share our cultural background as part of our in group, leading to higher levels of sensitivity with those members in the group. Furthermore, as some group members interact, share experiences, and collaborate, they tend to adopt similar attitudes, behaviors, and beliefs. And this convergence is known as within group assimilation. It strengthens group cohesion and identity. Concurrently, and sometimes while this is occurring simultaneously, we may begin to also view in group members more positively and extend extra privileges to them while exhibiting prejudice or discrimination towards out group members. And that looks like showing in group bias. And so, take this concept map for instance. The image displays multiple overlapping circles, each labeled with different aspects of social identity, such as race, gender identity, personality, and so many more. Each circle represents an in-group, which is a category or affiliation to which an individual belongs based on various factors. The overlapping circles symbolize that our social identities are multifaceted and often intersect. For instance, an individual can belong to multiple in-groups simultaneously, such as being both a woman and a person of color. The figure further reflects positive experiences by showing how certain in groups overlap more prominently. It shows how social identities are dynamic and subject to change. However, we gravitate towards and more strongly identify with groups that provide positive experiences and bolster our self esteem. And of course, culture is a key factor in shaping how we categorize people as part of our own group or outsiders. And this is because culture influences how we are raised, how we develop our ethnic and racial identities, how we form social identities, and how we create cultural stereotypes. So these dynamics contribute to the creation of social boundaries between different cultural groups and help maintain group cohesion within cultural communities. Yet, when individuals encounter negative experiences or rejection within specific in groups, they may distance themselves or even disidentify with those groups. For instance, in early 2024, the FHSU student organization Us For You and the GSA hosted their eighth annual Glitter Ash Wednesday event. And if you don't know about this situation, you can just Google it. But in a nutshell, FHSU went viral. Insurmountable hate speech and backlash occurred online. Subsequently, this has caused many individuals to distance themselves and disidentify from religion due to feeling rejected, a conflict of values, internalized stigma. And this disidentification can look like distancing oneself from those practices or institutions in favor of alternate sources of identity and community. Now we see how in-groups and out-group status can influence group dynamics, and so we'll explore now the concept of identity itself. What exactly is the difference between individual identity and collective identity? Is one more salient or important than the other? And how does this identity influence group dynamics? So, when we talk about individual identity, it refers to the unique sense of self based on personal experiences, characteristics, traits, and beliefs. It's the foundation of who we are as a person. It's shaped by our upbringing, personality traits, values, and life experiences. For instance, some of my personal interests include things like crafting, and I heavily identify as a crafter when I'm discussing things I like to do and some of my hobbies. Now, our collective identity is how we define ourselves in relation to our group or social category, and these are shaped by our shared ideas, interests, and experiences, as well as cultural norms and values. For instance, some people strongly identify with their nation or country. National symbols, history, language, and cultural practices contribute to this collective identity. And this identity can be observed in segments, for instance, of American society that have adopted an extreme form of individualism. And as I've stated before, there are levels to the salience of identity. So, identity salience refers to the relative importance or prominence of a specific identity, whether individual or collective, in any given context. It influences how we perceive ourselves and interact with others. So, people tend to identify with different aspects of their lives in different contexts. For instance, at work, they might strongly associate themselves with being in their professional roles, such as me, I'm an educator. At a social gathering, someone might highlight their hobbies, such as I'm a passionate crafter. And even during the Super Bowl, one may identify as a fan of their favorite team. But can you think of any examples where a shared sense of identity has motivated people to come together and take action? So, again, collective identity can influence social movements, and social movements include many, such as the Black Lives Matter movement, women's reproductive rights, gun control, LGBTQIA plus rights, Me Too supporters, those of supporters of federally decriminalizing cannabis, and of course, human rights and anti war ideologies. And all of these can demonstrate different collective identities. People are united to advocate for a common cause driven by shared beliefs and experiences of injustice. For instance, research from Malucci suggests that social movements often emerge in response to a perceived threat of a group's identity. Discrimination and a desire for justice are common experiences that motivate individuals to act collectively. And so you have to ask, who's more likely to involve themselves with social movements? History and research support the notion that young people's collective identity drives their involvement in social movements. It emphasizes the power of shared purpose, historical context, and the desire to create a better world. So take a few minutes and watch this clip shared here from the National Geographic page on YouTube. And it really highlights this topic of this group identity. And so keep in mind the shared experience of participating in the movement can strengthen the collective identity of those who remain committed as well. Collective identity allows individuals to feel empowered to act for change while still retaining their own sense of self and autonomy. So let's summarize our exploration of social groups from section 2. We've established that social groups are fundamental units of society, comprising individuals who interact and influence one another. It's also important to differentiate between formal groups, which have structured roles and rules, and formal groups, which arise more organically in contrast. And the reasons behind group formation are diverse, ranging from basic needs like security to more complex motivations like self esteem or shared interests. And finally, group dynamics encompass the intricate web of social interactions within a group. And this includes roles, norms, power dynamics, and individual collective identities. So, understanding these aspects of social groups are crucial for navigating our social world and fostering collaboration. So, be sure to come back for part 3 as we look at the overlap between cultures and social groups.